Awesome. I am streaming. Post that. Good, good. Great, awesome. I still need to make that half the window, make this half the window. Okay. All right. Once again, I got to start with an update. An update came out for Retro Rewind. I think they released, I saw on the Retro Rewind channel, they released the open beta for the new Retro Rewind Wii menu channel. But I'm not going to use that because they called it the My Stuff open beta. And if it messes with the My Stuff folder at all, I actually really don't want to touch that until it's stable enough that I can go in with my current mod pack and have it not break the game. You know, I think I'd rather just play the way I've been playing and then figure it out later. You know, loading. Do they, new channel coming soon. Here, hold on. Options. So go back. It doesn't show the version on the screen anymore, which is unfortunate. Let me check Retro Rewind, see what the latest version is. RR announcements. My Stuff open beta for the new channel. If available as an open beta. Okay. What else? February 2nd, update. Modified how fallback items work. Fallback item is for first green shell, for fourth mushroom, fifth, 10th triple mushroom, 11th, 12th star. Okay. Hello, Kayla the Furry. Welcome back. Unusual stream day for me, but I didn't stream on Monday. I didn't stream on Wednesday because those 2 days were particularly busy for me. So I'm streaming today because I felt like one stream this week was not enough. I wanted to shoot the shit with Twitch chat because I really enjoy that, and try to get used to a little bit the less pressure to do news coverage on stream because, like, you know, I kind of, I'm at a point where I kind of have to pick between YouTube and Twitch, and I think for now I'm going to pick Twitch, and then maybe in the future when I think of a bigger project or whatever, then I can focus on YouTube a little bit. But in the meantime, there are things to talk about. I just might not make like news segments out of them because I've got other stuff lined up. Retroverses. Who do I want to be this time? Yoshi. Just a pretty plain red Yoshi. Oh wow, we got a full room. Nice. Wow, that person's in... Well, I know that these location pins aren't necessarily accurate to where you are in the country. For example, I think for the United States, it'll just show everyone as being on the eastern seaboard. But that pin was like in the very northern regions of Norway. I think you look good in purple. Maybe I would. Right now I have like olive green stuff. You can't see, but I have, well, actually, if I stand up, you can see it. I have olive green short shorts. So I've got my olive green fit for today. Wilma Afton, that's true. Transition could have saved her or something. Type shit. Yeah, so I actually recently I got some I finally got some bras to protect my chest because, you know, when you take HRT, your nipples start getting more sensitive. Like as a guy, your nipples are not as sensitive, right? Because it's like I looked up the science of how that works, but it's like the tissue's all there, but it's like inert, or it hasn't grown. If you go through a male puberty or whatever, just kind of stays there and nothing happens. So you don't get any of the sensory development, any of the nerve endings or like whatever, the new connections that have to form for your body to grow in certain ways. That doesn't happen if you're a guy. So when you take our HRT, your chest gets more sensitive, and that made it kind of a problem to wear like, or not wear certain things, you know? So now I've got that covered. It's a little bit tight, which I'm sure is either a product of me ordering something that was just slightly too small, or I just haven't broken it in yet, which happens over the course of the day. But yeah, it's coming along, which is really nice. Ooh, TikTok clock. This is a mock bike track. It takes out the milk and nah, that's not that one's not supposed to happen. When the doctor told me that if that ever happens, you should actually like see the doctor. You know? Simulation makes him grow. Does it? Oh shit. Hold on, new tech unlocked. I know what I'm doing later. I looked up a little bit of that as well. It's like it just naturally grows over time if you have a like HRT, if you have like estrogens in your system and whatnot. It does. This is verified. Well, shit, that's cool. Also, I'm getting absolutely junked this race because I have been wheeling. I think it's almost exclusively because I got bumped off as a product of me wheeling in spots where I really shouldn't have been. This might not even be a great place to use the bullet, but I don't want to hold it for too long, because otherwise I would just get catastrophically far behind. I'm still very far behind, but there's some hope of me catching up at least. Use a mushroom here. Okay. I passed somebody. Okay. Seventh for how bad I raced. I will take that. Next race. I actually want to open Twitter while I have the opportunity, because I posted some stuff that I and you know, liked, retweeted, whatever, some stuff that I thought would be interesting to talk about. I didn't like mention that like, oh, I should talk about this on stream, but it was like interesting enough for me to comment on. I feel like it'd be good to talk about on stream for some stuff. But the first thing actually isn't any of that. The first thing I want to talk about is Zoran Mamdani has been, well, there is a thing that I saw / posted / reposted that is related to that, but Zoran Mamdani's actually been killing it in New York City. So ordinarily what happens with politicians, because this is a neoliberal hell world, is that they aura farm on the campaign trail, which makes people like them, right? And then they get elected and they turn around and don't do any of the things that they aura farmed about. Or if they're a Republican, they actually do them, and then people realize, wait, this person fucking hates me. I'm sure I'll forget in 4 years, I'll go vote for him again, right? Whatever the case, they aura farm about doing good things on the campaign trail, get into office, don't do good things, and then people start to dislike them more. You know, their approval ratings and polling data reflecting how people think of them will decrease. It will deteriorate, right? So if a politician is like, oh yeah, wow, 60% approval on the day that they're inaugurated or elected, that will go down over time. Maybe like after a few weeks, it'll be down to 55, and then like it'll settle somewhere in the 40s. But because Zoran Mamdani said, nah, I'm different, and actually just fucking did free childcare in the first week. People love him. His approval rating has only been going up. Zoran Mamdani had like a 51 or 52% approval rating on election day, like as he was being elected, where most politicians are at the peak of their popularity. He was at like 52%, and now he's at like 60% popularity, like a month into his tenure as the mayor of New York City. Why? It's not rocket science, but it is political science. He's doing good fucking things, you know? And those good things are things that the ruling class, the owning class, are not necessarily all that interested in. So, no other politician would do them. Like, the secret to Mamdani's success is not that, like, oh, he's done, like, snazzy social media shit. It's because he's a real person and not a neolib. That is the secret sauce that makes Mamdani's political sheen so bright, you know? And it is and will continue to be hilarious to watch all of the neolibs continue to insist, no, that can't be it. And still fixate on the social media stuff, even as they are demonstrated to time and again be just absolutely dog at social media. And I fucked up the shortcut. Those were really good bananas because they forced me to take a really bad line. I'm sorry. Oh, did I not actually hit him? Okay, that's kind of a relief. I usually don't like just running through people with a star like that if I can avoid it. Well, my audio sources look pretty good. Sometimes I get concerned that like one audio source will just be quiet, but random paranoia averted. And I'm genuinely excited to see the development course that New York City takes, because Zoran Mamdani is like an actual ideologically motivated politician. And when I say ideologically motivated, that means he believes in things and wants to follow through on those things strongly enough that he will tell people to their face, I'm still going to do this, when the rich people whine about it. Like, the thing I'm thinking of is when he was talking to actually a wealthy person, a millionaire living in New York. And they were like, yeah, man, you say you're going to tax the rich. I'm going to leave the city because of that. And Mamdani told him to his face, no, you're not. And explained that this is a 2% wealth tax. If you earn $1 million, that's $20,000 off of your income. You know? And then this wealthy person actually said, oh yeah, I guess you're right, I'm not gonna leave. Like, the fucking... Oh my god, absolute Chad shit. Also, Ash Kitty, welcome back to chat. I see that stretch request. I can't really do that while I'm racing, but I will get to that in a... I'll make sure to do that in a minute, because you redeemed it. Nope. I didn't see that, so... Give me this box, thank you. I think I want to just use this mushroom at the shortcut to minimize the chance that I would fail it. It's early in the session still. I don't necessarily want to risk the shroomless cut if I have a mushroom. Oh, okay. What's up? Oh, he didn't get hit by either of those. That's honestly fine, because this is top 4. Like, we're all right here. This is also kind of a mock bike track. I'm going to use this here. Try to stay in... Well... Oh, I guess I flattened that guy. I didn't realize. Okay. Had a feeling they were going to use a shock there, but that is a really good shock. Because now I can't take the shortcut, but there's plenty of people behind me who are going to get big in time to take it. Yep. Well, I guess maybe only a couple people then. I'm surprised more people didn't go for it. And I am perfectly fine with... Oh, damn it! I swear I never remember... How did he get me with that? That's crazy. I was gonna say, I never remember when, like, where those things fall. And I'm just getting bumped. Damn. Okay. I need this box here. I need it pretty badly. Okay, cool. I'm gonna start using this here, probably. That's a good star, I think. Third place is not bad. Okay. Time to stretch. Okay. Been trying to read more theory, but I've low-key been procrastinating. That's okay. Look, it's oh, first time chat. Well, welcome to chat, Ash Kitty. Reading theory is like, on some level it's important, but I honestly think that sometimes theory can be like a bit much. That's not to say I don't have like strong theoretical foundations for all my positions and stuff, but you know. Oh, okay. Dry ruins. Like I think Luxembourg and Marx probably are the two most important theorists to read. Them, and honestly Pictet is oddly important too. Pictet's a really good mix because he writes books, or he has written books that are meant for more general audiences, so they tend to lean into theoretical stuff to avoid being too data heavy. But he's an economist who compiled with Emmanuel Saez and Gabriel Zuckman, I think, like almost 100 years of economic data. Like the man undertook probably the largest economic data analysis in the history of the social science, right? So it's like a good mix of both, and you get from Pictet, you get some of what you would get from those other theories. A good like intro point to like that sort of stuff. Certainly Pictet has some like issues with capitalism, because he's like well, he actually had a very similar like character arc, if we're comparing it in that sense, to Karl Marx. He used to be, in his younger years, a liberal, and once he became an economist and started doing these large-scale studies, he was radicalized into being a socialist over time because of what he noticed is a like fundamental flaw in a capitalist system, which is that capital, the metrics of wealth and control over resources in society, has a like very bedrock tendency to flow upwards towards the top, you know? So much so that social democracy is like necessarily an uphill battle. I didn't get the angle right. Mostly the language, it's a barrier trying to retain stuff with theory. Is English not your first language? Or, oh, do you mean just the language that theorists often use to describe things? Because yes, I get it. Definitely get it. I mean, you know, I certainly got that when I was reading Adam Smith. Adam Smith is actually also a very important theorist to read, partially because of how much he's kind of like a proto-Marxist. Words that you probably wouldn't expect to hear about Adam Smith, but Adam Smith actually does describe the tendency of the rate of profit to fall, the process of alienation, the oppositional relationship between the working and owning classes, which will sharpen as systems develop, and the role of the state as a mediator sometimes being insufficient because, like, you know, the owning class is by definition more consolidated and thus has more influence. Like for me, Mark's 50-50, where half the time I get it, half the time I have to strain my brain. I totally get that. And that's why I've like significantly slowed my reading pace over the years and started taking notes on stuff. I could not get through Marx. I tried to read Das Kapital and I couldn't. I have not, well, I have read Marx. I read his essays on alienation, but I haven't read Capital. I've read Capital in the 21st Century, but not the original Das Kapital. Hello, Gotron. Welcome back. This is also a very mock bike friendly track, I think. All right. Oh, Orange Man posting racist video depicting the Obama family as apes, and then he quickly deleted it. I did, in fact, see that. So many shitpost accounts were reposting it, and for a split second, well, before I heard the news, like, specifically about him posting this, I was like, oh, haha, that's funny, and, like, very characteristic of Trump, on the assumption that he didn't actually do that. But no, he just did that. He just posted that, which is really funny, because it's like, it's almost like Trump is a, like, you can tell Trump is a crotchety old grandpa who really just does not care, right? And he's really racist, but he's very interpersonally Machiavellian to the extent that his feeble mind will allow him to be, but he can't, like, comprehend of the political ramifications of his actions, partly because of how much information is gatekept from him. So he'll just post shit like that, being unaware of how, like, massive aura loss on the part of the Republican Party, you know? Only thing I know from Capital is how much the book Marx devotes to talking about a yard of linen. I haven't read Capital yet, but that's what I've retained. Lol. Yeah, and there's a reason for that, which is that linen is a material used in textile production, and at the time, textile production was a massive economic and industrial phenomenon in Europe. So he uses a yard of linen to analyze, like, as an example, the process of production, the input, throughput, and output costs associated with making a coat, making a wool coat or a linen, you know, shirt, right? Because there's all these different stages of the process that like, his fundamental project with Das Kapital is he wanted to analyze the political economy of this new capitalist world, right? In which there were, like, socialist revolutions popping up and that sort of thing. When he started writing Das Kapital, he was a liberal. Trillion francs per femtokilometer of linen. Many such cases. Yeah, and like, and I haven't read it either, but my understanding is that, you know, because a political economy is like a system that manages the production and distribution of goods and services ostensibly to meet people's needs. One of people's needs is clothing, and you know, the you know, venue where such clothing is produced is would be like a factory, a textile factory. That's why all this shit about like a yard of linen and that sort of thing. '19th century specific economics to make it more digestible to people at the time. Yes, but it's also relevant to today. He just picked like a commodity that was being produced back then. Commodities like that are still being produced now. Like the production that he talks about in the 19th century, on a fundamental level, that's kind of still how production happens today. Oh, you're not supposed to hold back there. Like the reason Marx is still relevant is because his stuff isn't just relevant to the 19th century. It's also relevant to economics in the 20th and 21st century. With the like, because what he's describing is not just the like specific details of a 19th century industrial productive process, but also the fundamental relationships that shape that process. And those fundamental relationships are still present, even if the tools that we use to, you know, weave cloth are much different now, or like very advanced compared to what they would have been back then. Maybe now I can get away with holding back? Yeah, okay. Oh. Can't really reach over to ban that solicitation bot right now, so get to that when I get to that. Goodbye, unintelligible newsman F. Don't know what that was about. Now I'm curious what your debunk of the economic calculation problem would be. Stream boobs? Many such cases. I don't know what the economic calculation problem is. Criticism of using central economic planning rather than the market for the allocation of factors of production. Oh, is that all? Oh, yeah. Debunking that is actually extremely easy because economic planning, central planning, is not just we will plan exactly how much of everything gets produced everywhere for all time for everybody, like throughout the year, this year or whatever. No, planning happens, economic planning that you could characterize as central planning happens in a market system. It has to. You can't have an unplanned economy. You know? Think of something like Walmart or Target, one of these giant superstores that wheel and deal or that truck and barter in many different kinds of goods and services. They have to record data and statistics about the the demand for various goods and services in certain areas, so they can determine how much of such and such should we stock. That is economic planning. That is central planning, in fact. They've simply decentralized central planning to a certain degree. You know? And they used to do it better, too, before they decided, like, yeah, we should actually just never stock stuff because that's, like, costs too much rent or something. Like, anybody who says that central planning is not viable for like an economy to function has no fucking idea what the Fed does. They have no fucking idea what the Bureau of Labor Statistics does. They have no idea what all of these government offices whose job it is to record consumption, production, exchange, and labor markets. Like that's what they do. There is central, like in order to have an economy of scale, you have to have central planning. You know, it has to be organized in a certain way. Fundamentally, I think the only thing really being gestured at by people who critique central planning as a concept unto itself is just that they are in their head making an epic and based, intellectually informed critique of the Soviet Union. It's just like a Reddit, like, autofillating way to say Soviet Union bad, capitalism good, and sound like you know what you're talking about to, like, economists. Every economy has central planning if it is to any extent an economy of scale. You know? In fact, many of the issues with economics on a global scale, with, you know, international logistics networks and trade, like being so easily gummed up by one incident because everything runs on razor thin margins, is because of the lack of planning that occurs. Like, because we haven't planned enough for such and such scenarios, right? Like, there are not enough contingencies baked in, planned for, right? Again, I'm getting dogged this race, but that's my opinion on the economic calculation problem. Under socialism, there's no way to calculate prices under a socialist planned economy. Therefore, socialism can't work. Top 10 people who've never heard of market socialism. Again, it's retard shit masquerading as not retard shit in order to be taken seriously by an economic community that's already predisposed to not like socialism. Socialism is a perfectly viable economic system. It can have markets, it could have not have markets. The thing that makes socialism different from capitalism is that eventually you would move away from markets in a socialist system. But it ultimately comes down to the ownership and incentives behind production, right? You can have a capitalist economy that's planned. That's what the Soviet Union was. You know? It's very telling, the illegitimacy to me of this critique, that these people will conflate planned economy with socialism when that's not really the case. You can have capitalist economies that are planned, just as you can have a market socialist economy composed largely of workers' unions and workers' cooperatives that engage in a more or less market system of production and exchange, but operate under the ownership collectively of workers at the municipal and regional level, rather than a private, like, joint stock model. Yeah, that, like, it's honestly baffling to me that the economic calculation problem is even taken seriously in any academic field, because it's just Reddit, like, anti-communism shit. Like, here, let's actually use another example, right? Your grocery list. That is a list of goods that you need to procure, that you need to like, purchase and consume, and you sort of formulate an idea through taking stock of what you have in your house and what you need. It's like, oh, I'm running low on this, so I need this at the store. You don't decide what you get at the store at the moment you set foot in the store, right? No, you write a little list beforehand, or maybe you make it on your phone or whatever. I use sticky notes, but, you know, that's just me. That is a microcosm of economic planning. But in this case, it is much closer to the Greek root word of ekonomika, which means household. You are planning for your household, what kind of food you will buy to consume for the week, or for 2 weeks, or for, 3 days, or whatever. And that is a necessity for individuals, for families, and for local and regional governments and corporate entities of all kinds. They have to maintain these supply lines, but they can't do that. They can't wing it. They have to plan for, like, oh, we're short on such and such. There's a shortage of this. We have a surplus of this. So we can afford to put in more orders for whatever we can, and we can actually, like, because we have more than we need of this other thing, we can, like, help out neighboring municipalities or whatever, right? It's just not, it feels like I'm repeating myself again, but, like, it's just not serious. They're just not serious when they talk about that. But yeah. Also, people who say like, oh, how do you calculate prices under socialism don't understand socialism, because the fucking premise of transitioning from capitalism to socialism to communism is that eventually you get rid of the market and pricing system. You get rid of money eventually, right? That's part of the decommodification of things. Is that like part of the commodification of things is that everything has a price tag, and enshrined in whatever legal structure there is that if you cannot meet the price tag with your available funds, even if it's for something essential, that means you do not have the right to have that thing. Even though the social contract, we all understand, means that you should be able to, by virtue of being a member of society, you get to benefit from society. There's like a fundamental divide there that socialism as an ideology was developed to address, right? And part of that means the abolition of debt, the abolition of money, the abolition of the class structure, right? So any critique of central planning that tries to be a critique of both central planning and socialism is doomed to fail. Any critique of socialism that attempts to say, well, socialism can't handle capitalist economics is doomed to fail, because they're not fundamentally interested in interrogating any of the issues that they're ostensibly asking about or commenting on. They're interested in aura farming for capitalism and saying capitalism is so great because you can get 15 different brands of peanut butter at the grocery store. You know? Yeah, it's like thing in parentheses private sector, thing in parentheses government, and then they like shit themselves. Like that's literally, it's just they tried to make that sound a little bit more intellectually tenable. I'm gonna probably use this here. This seems like a good place to use it. Decent enough time for it to run out, too. Okay, please don't red me. I'll try to take different lines than you. What's up? Oh, I actually got him. Cool. Initially, I was planning to throw that at Bleffin, but that guy passed in front of me, so... Come on. Throw it? Yes! Oh no, the poor bastard. He got hit by like a red shell or fake item box or something, and then I just bombed him. He got owned again. Poor guy. Okay, well. Okay. Cool. Third place is pretty good. Especially because I was kind of getting dogged that race. I was kind of getting whooped. Getting my ass whooped. Yay. Anyways, let me take a look at some of the things that I actually posted and wanted to... I'm gonna block this person. There we go. Take a look at some of the things I wanted to talk about because I found them interesting. What do I want to vote for here? I don't actually want to do Bowser's Castle, I think. That seems like a recipe for disaster for me in particular. Let's go Desert Hills. Okay. Oh yeah, on the subject of theory, okay. There is, so given that it's 2026, there's a bunch of elections happening in the United States, the midterm elections. One of them, some of them being in Texas for Senate, for governor as well. And apparently, I saw this post from the Teamsters Union, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters, where their local chapter endorsed Greg Abbott, aka Governor Hot Wheels, the Republican in the race. And I looked at that and I was like, I fucking hate capitalist trade unionism so goddamn much, right? Usually the dichotomy, the political dichotomy on unions, right? Workers unions, trade unions, is that people on the right fucking hate them because they are objectively a political artifice of worker power, right? Which is good. And for that reason, people on the left tend to like them. But there are also very many left-leaning arguments against trade unionism, against workers' unions that I think everybody should be aware of. And they all have to do with capitalism, right? The workers at a workers' union are not necessarily class conscious of a broader plight of the workers, of the broader relationship that exists. They are only materially conscious, politically conscious, etc., insofar as the membership of that union is concerned, right? Especially in the United States, solidarity strikes are actually illegal. So it's like they're legally locked in, but even if that law weren't there, the problem would still remain, right? And that's just one problem. Another problem is that partly owing to the nature of unions as sectoral or related to a person's trade or profession, they are also part of the companies that ostensibly people will be striking against, right? So the United Auto Workers is a component part of the sort of economic machinery that produces automobiles in this country. They're inextricably tied to the fate of their respective companies. Such and such local chapter of the of the SEIU, the Service Employee. I forget what the acronym stands for, but it's a service retail and service workers union. They will be part of or employees at the local retail and service sector businesses, right? So that union is part of those businesses. So the economic interests of the union will sometimes, in fact, relatively reliably, align at a basic level with that of the companies that nominally have oppositional interests to them. So essentially, they can operate as a recuperation mechanism of the interests of the workers and absorb that into the interests of capital by tying the fate of the workers to the fate of the capitalists, right? Does that make sense? So that's how you get in the 2024 presidential election cycle, the Teamsters Union endorsed Trump for president, even though the Republican Party and Trump are objectively anti-union and anti-worker in their political dispositions. And you get this local branch of the Teamsters endorsing Greg Abbott. It's like well, I mean, I explained what it is. That's one of the problems of trade unionism in a capitalist system. Does that mean I hate unions? Sometimes. But you should still join a union if there's one available, because fuck the capital class. You should do anything possible to make life more annoying for them. And that's one of the things that people can do and frequently do to make life more annoying. But the critique here is one in light of the argument that sometimes socialists or more often social democrats, as the split was happening, would offer in the 19th century at the time that Luxemburg was writing. That's the workers' trade unions will be the vessel of class consciousness that can actually carry us into a socialist world, like a socialist, social democratic world. And the reality of it is that is not the case. In fact, in the United States, it's actually, this is never enforced, obviously, because of how the fuck do you police an individual person's political leanings, right? But it is technically illegal to be a member of a trade union or a workers' union if you are a socialist or a communist, which is some Cold War shit. It's like leftover from the Cold War. Yeah, I've read the law myself. Yes, there is in fact a law that says that uh, uh, communists and socialists are banned from unions and such methods of worker organizing. Landon wrote about this. IRC talked about uh, uh, trade union consciousness in one of his books. Don't remember which one because I haven't read Landon in a hot minute. I wouldn't be surprised if he talked about this. You know, him and Luxembourg were contemporaries. They were writing at about the same time. They even wrote responses to one another. Uh, yeah, that doesn't surprise me too much. Plus 42 for 6th. Well, all right. Vote. Give me Desert Hills or give me death or something. So yeah, sometimes some baby leftists like myself may be a little bit jilted by the fact that glorious worker trade unionism will not, in fact, save us from a capitalist nightmare hellhole, because those trade unions are also part of the capitalist machinery. In fact, they were complicit in many of the neoliberal rollbacks of the welfare state after during Reagan's tenure as president, and on through the 90s and 2000s, including after the 2008 financial crisis. You know, like a lot of that was negotiations between the unions and the companies themselves, and they were like, unions, you have to take a pay cut, because if this company goes under, your union goes under too. Like if a company ceases to exist, so does the union, and the union, acting in the interest of itself and its members, doesn't want that. So oftentimes the company will be like, you will, like, if you don't accept these pay cuts, then the company will be dissolved. And of course, that is a decision made by executives at a company, right? So, like, is it in their power to decide that the company can live without those pay cuts? Yes. But they don't. And the unions don't necessarily have influence on that. Like, they already decided, oh, we're going to buy back our own stock. We're going to handsomely compensate our executives. They're going to get all their golden parachutes and that type of shit. Like, they've already settled that. And then they're saying, like, okay, well, we have to make up some of this money somewhere. So then they decide, okay, we will, we'll cut the workers' pay. We'll cut salaries for people at the entry and middle level. And unions actually made that smooth over, like, because they were the vehicle of the interests of the workers. They pacified them in that sort of way. This room is rough. You fall off once and you're done. I'm going to keep picking Desert Hills. I've kind of settled on that as the next track I want. I usually try to follow that pattern where first I pick Dry Ruins because that's my favorite track. And then after that, I try to settle on like, okay, what track would I maybe like to play? Okay, this one. And I just keep picking it until it gets chosen. You know, sometimes I go random, but I actually don't like going random all that much. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I could have skipped a lot of that by just saying the unions are severely compromised by the interests of the company, huh? Leftist meme. It is what it is. Okay. I tried to take the inside line to just put a little tiny bit of distance between me and Luigi there, but it didn't work. Is he out of red shells? He is. Okay. I still have one mushroom. That's good. Okay, I'm going to stay behind this guy. I do not want to get absolutely murked by a red shell. Okay. Oh, he had a mushroom too. 3 red shells. Can throw one of them here and another one here. And okay, he has 3 bananas, so I'll just get rid of all these. I'll hold this out. Oh, dang it. It was too soon for me to identify. Honestly, it might have been a mistake for me to throw those red shells forward to establish how oppositional I was being to the guy in front of me. Might have been a better idea to hang back and just, like, keep my red shells. You know? People are taking all sorts of shortcuts that I don't really know about here. Well, here's one that I do know about, though. And I'm gonna use this here. I really need to, whatever else happens, get away with this guy with the green shells. Or get away from this guy with the green shells. Okay, blue shell. That's good, I think. Yeah, actually, that's really good for me because it prolongs it prolongs how long that guy is in the race, which means that it's possible if another blue shell comes right now, it'll go for him and not me. I'm not doing that without a mushroom, and that's why. Well, that's partly why. What's up, Luigi? Fourth place? Okay. Family Guy. There's also there was a, what was it, primary? Yeah. This is about the time that primaries are happening. In the lead up to the midterm elections later this year. Because it's a 2-party system, the candidates run rather than parties, although oftentimes candidates will represent different like micro coalitions within a party. There was one happening in what was it, New Jersey? Yeah. Between Ana Lilia Mejia and who was it? Fucking Malinowski. Tom Malinowski or something like that. Their names aren't actually important. What's important is all of the news organizations actually posted that Tom Malinowski won and he didn't. He ended up losing the election. They called it too early. And so Mejia just posted the fucking Dewey defeats Truman newspaper. Famously, another massive polling goof in history was when the presidential election of 1945 or 6 was happening. The newspapers all posted Dewey defeats Truman. Who is Dewey? Nobody fucking knows, because Harry Truman won that election and was the next president of the United States after Roosevelt. And it was like hilarious. Like, it was an example of how polling is misinformation, like, a lot of the times, because it, like, it attempts to use past, like, it attempts to use a lagging indicator as a leading indicator or whatever. Where, like, I think I've explained more in depth the problems with political polling, but a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's such a demand for them by the consultant and political class that they oftentimes function less as the scientific tool that I'm sure a lot of political scientists would like to try to use them as, and more so as a propaganda tool to gas up support for one candidate or another. Particularly, a bad poll will usually support a conservative candidate, like, because of how detached conservatives are from reality, and how detached conservatism as an ideology and set of ideas is from reality, necessarily, a conservative or reactionary-minded person is less likely to have their mind changed by a poll, because they can just, if you're really on the right, you can just dismiss it as Jewish, and say, like, the election was rigged anyway, it doesn't matter. But if you're like a centrist reactionary type, then, like, you'd be much more immersed in the horse race, and in that sense, like, primed to be like, well, this doesn't actually portend to. I don't know. Look, I have a couple of videos, much older videos on my channel about it, where I explain this a lot better, and you can check those out there. But classic polling is misinformation moment. You love to see it. Especially a great example of this is how 538 does those scattershot polls. And it was like, oh, we did 100 different polls, and in 50, in like 20 of them, this candidate won. In 80 of them, this candidate won. It's pretend information. They're pretending to give you some kind of insight that this candidate is more likely to win. But when they inevitably have no fucking clue what they're talking about, they can just point to the poll that predicts any and all possible and impossible outcomes and say, see, we told you. It was like, told me fucking what? You know? Not to mention the fact that a lot of pollsters in 2024 were using, and I think some still are using, AI respondents. A lot of polls are just like political divining. They don't actually ask real people. And for some of them, like, you have to be a member of their, like, polling board or whatever, their membership, in order to even be asked those questions. Some of them are opt-in. They're just hideously unscientific, and they masquerade as scientific. And they're meant to give people a certain idea about what the public believes or leans towards with respect to a certain candidate. Even despite that, they've had trouble manufacturing the narrative that, like, oh yeah, people love the reasonable centrist that wants nothing to happen, right? But that is what they try to use that for. In fact, polling is kind of like subject to, in this sense, commodification, because it contributes to, like, a sort of book, almost like a book tour industrial complex, except it's like political poll industrial complex. They go on the news like, wow, how did you predict this so epically with this poll? How did you get this so correct? You're so smart. When it was like a coin flip or something. I don't know. I'm fucking yammering and yapping at this point, but I really don't like polls, and so I love to see it when there's a poll that was like so dramatically proven just wrong. uh you know. Oh, somebody fell off, huh? Oh, what? You can actually jump over that? That is insane. I am driving really badly. I miss all sorts of mini turbos, but somehow I am still in third place. And got triple mushrooms? Okay. What is happening? This has been like the third time just this stream that I have pressed the R button to start a drift, and it sent me into a slow-ass turn. And it was like, no, actually you didn't start a drift, you know? Which is dumb as hell. 6 players, 8 players, okay. I think just generally, to cap off that rant about polling, to make sense of it all, I think it's just not good when you subject things that are supposed to be methods for gathering and disseminating knowledge to market pressures and the pressures of commodification. Like, I don't think those are good incentives to introduce to something like political polling that ostensibly is supposed to put your finger on the pulse of the body politic and understand basically the mass psychology of America. You know? Because now you've introduced a financial incentive to read that incorrectly, to give people the wrong information, but, you know, information that is better for them, like keeping up with the horse race, essentially. It sort of turns politics into that kind of horse race. It trivializes it in a way. Ow. I even took that turn correctly and still lobbed a green shell right at me. Okay, let me chain this. Another star. Okay, use this here. And I am perfectly fine with the position I'm in. I think my preferred position right now is to be in second place. Red shell is coming. I think I'm gonna chain this. You can have first, Belkist. Yeah, I'm not going to challenge that. Okay, maybe no, that guy's first. So tried to sneak one cheeky little green shell, but maybe it wasn't meant to be. Mushroom, okay. People are gonna do all sorts of stuff at the finish line here. I don't know what place I got. Okay, third. That was a good race. Oh, there's another thing I saw just a little bit earlier. that is actually germane to my field of relative expertise. Not politics, but rather archaeology. I don't even know if this is a real New York Times headline, but it's just a screenshot of an image of a supposed prehistoric woman holding a spear thrower. One of those things where you plant, you essentially put the butt of a spear into this kind of like ladle looking thing, and then you lob it, right? You lob it forward, and that helps you throw a spear, like much better than you would be able to just by using your arm, you know. And there's some animals in the picture. And the text says prehistoric women were probably better at hunting than men, scientists suggest. Is that actually true? I don't know. And I don't really care. And I don't think it really matters. But a lot of people love to show their entire ass for how much they hate women, because all the comments are not like actually engaging with the material that like the implications of the role of certain people in hunter-gatherer societies, or what the implication of hunter-gatherer society means, etc. They're just saying like, haha, they're just making shit up, because to them it's inconceivable that women could ever be good at something as masculine as hunting. And you know, you're showing your whole ass to the world whenever somebody gives a take like that. They're showing their whole ass to the world because, like, hunting was not a gendered activity. Women and men, as far as we have data to suggest the demographics of people that hunted, it was just like able-bodied young people. There wasn't really a disparity between men and women, to the best of our knowledge. Like, and when I say our, I mean like in the archaeological community, as far as experts know that I have read, men and women hunted at about the same rates, because like fucking obviously, why, you know, we're talking about hunter-gatherer societies. It's like it's not as if these fucking modern extremely hierarchical gender norms have evolved. They're more concerned with how the fuck are we gonna get food, you know, and not like what projecting some kind of kink, right? But then also the assumption, the whole like debate over, or not debate, but like the focus, the fixation on like, oh, haha, men are better at hunting than women, also presupposes that hunting was important, which it kind of was, but hunter-gatherer societies, hunter-gatherer is kind of a misnomer. If anything, it would be foraging societies or gathering hunting societies, if you even include hunting as a descriptor for the society at all. Hunting was never really a primary source of food for people. It was always foraging, right? That was always easier. Like, it was always more efficient from the perspective of gathering food that would keep and that you could eat, like, that you would consistently be able to find and procure. Foraging was always better. Sure, like, meat was really yummy, so sometimes they'd try to hunt some big game to have like a really, really nice feast. But at most, hunting made up about like 30% of the food, and that's like weighting towards hunting. You know? Yeah, like the epic sport of hunting and showing your dominance over nature to survive in primitive conditions where you haven't even invented agriculture yet. It just wasn't viable in that sort of way, in it, like that colloquially people assume it to be. A lot of times, in fact, the increase in meat in people's diet does not owe to hunting. In fact, it owes to the opposite. It owes to animal domestication, because now you don't have to hunt the animals. They're all in one place. That's where the meat in people's diets starts to come from more and more. And that happened at about the same time as, well, agriculture, because animal domestication, animal husbandry kind of goes hand in hand with that, you know? Also, I'm really not on my timing today for the startup boost. I haven't been recently, really. But, you know, these people are like barely sapient. The people who would fixate on, oh my god, women had a role in like primitive societies and shit, and they weren't just like fuck objects or something. Those kinds of people I consider as like barely conscious and barely worth any sort of moral consideration. Like their brains are so cooked by hating women and, well, self-loathing on a certain level that like, you know, that kind of thought experiment, that thought exercise, that's more for me than anybody, because obviously they're not going to understand. Like their interest first and foremost is, can I make this into hating women? Like they do that about fucking everything. Women just so happen to be mentioned in this potentially fake headline. I don't even know if it's real. But I think if it is real, then the only reason NYT would run it is to get some sort of sensationalist. It's like to farm engagement, essentially, because in the archaeological community, it wouldn't really have any sort of significance that on its own. If anything, the significance would be something that New York Times would not be able or interested in communicating in an article of theirs, which is that, like, yeah, obviously in these pre-fucking gender separation societies, there weren't gendered structures that segregated certain activities on the basis of whether you were a man or woman, right? Oh my god. Okay. Oh, is that a shortcut too? That's crazy. This ending is getting kind of crazy too. Fourth place? Okay. Yeah, people tend to get on some different shit when it's like there's an opportunity to hate women or something. And by people, I mean conservatives who kind of aren't people. Not really. Also, mutual of mine pointed something out that I thought was like, how the fuck have I never heard this until now, right? So everybody knows, I was talking just earlier about like the extremely Reddit anti-communism and shit. If communism is so bad, this mutual of mine on Twitter posted this. If communism is so bad, why do all the fucking evil pedophile billionaires hate it so much? And I was like, you know what? That's a really good point. Like, if a thing is so bad, why is it so universally disliked among people whose ideology is, I should have infinite power and rape infinite children or whatever? Like, for those people to dislike something, like, I feel like, you know what I mean? Has to be some kind of indication that, and I was like, yeah, actually, when the fucking worst people alive hate something that is philosophically meant to, like, do good things, and maybe it's philosophically meant to do good things, like, maybe that's good, actually. I'm gonna throw that up there. Ooh, okay. Oh, he took it. Ow. That was pure greed. Plain and simple. I wanted those mushrooms. I still want the mushrooms. Oh, I should have kept that mushroom. Here, I'll... The worst possible outcome? I thought for sure I had gotten a box there. Man. That's unfortunate. Wheelie locked again at the worst possible time. Oh my god. Okay. Let me see if I can't turn this around a little bit. Not that far behind. I'm in last, but they're right there. I'm gonna go for that box. I'm gonna go for this one. Okay. I am going to assume that buddy behind me has the shock. And I know that this is probably a doomed venture. But I'm going to go for the double shortcut. No, oh, never mind. He's a homie. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was going to say, I'm going to go for the double, assuming that he's just going to shock me on the way over and I'm going to get fucked. But no, he actually shocked me into the boxes so I could get another item. Thank you. I think it was Wazupi. Yay. I think that's my first place of the day. Vote for next course, please. Dino Jungle. Oh, wait, we played that one earlier. Ah, whatever. Tell you what, if it doesn't get picked this time, I'll pick something else. I was only like half cognizant of the fact that we'd already played Dino Jungle, so that's my B. On the subject of the title, I was just reminded, I didn't talk about this when I was talking about Mamdani. He did actually recently do a press conference or like I guess a press event of some sort where he unveiled some of the plans to fund universal childcare. Okay, it did get picked. Cool. And he did, I think he did it like at a pre-K school, like pedagogy institution, whatever. Like there were some little kids at the podium and they were doing their shit. It was so refreshing. It was so cute to see the like kids trying to use the microphone and just making silly little noises in the background. He's reminding me like, oh shit, politicians can be real people sometimes. And they don't have to be just these fucking lifeless ghouls, like these lifeless consultant class ghouls. Oh, that was a really good trick. That's like the ideal scenario there. Also, shoutouts to Lars on the fucking flame flyer. Yeah. He's letting it rock. But like it remains genuinely so impressive to me that Zoran Mamdani has so quickly followed through on one of his biggest campaign promises. I guess that's like, he's on his FDR shit in that respect, right? Like he wants to do the fucking extremely base thing right away to give people something so good that like nobody could live without it once they have it, so that like the ghouls who want to fucking ruin your life, when they get in power again, they will have to either accept that like, shit, okay, people just get to have free childcare now and we like can't really do anything about it, or they have to commit to sabotaging their own career and making themselves evil in the eyes of the people by being like, you don't get to have free childcare anymore, right? Like the Republicans have lost so many times politically just because they like are very openly against Social Security and Medicare. They still have to posture as though they are not against Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the other elements of the welfare state, right? But like, you know, it's genuinely, these programs are so popular that the Democrats have been able to get away with not running on anything affirmative, just running on, yeah, let's prevent the Republicans from attacking these welfare programs that everybody benefits from. And like, that's enough, because those welfare programs, as meager as they are so foundational, and like, without them, everybody would just fucking die. You know? Welfare states are good, actually, because why the fuck do we have the public sector to begin with, except like to do that? Like, why the fuck else did we come up with that shit? Really like Wii U Royal Raceway. I want to do that one. Also, completely unrelated, is another thing that I have been doing. I've been playing in my Minecraft creative world. For those not familiar, for the new heads in stream, you know, welcome to everybody. I have a Minecraft creative mode world that I have been working on and expanding since 2014. So about 12 years at this point. I had it since before Minecraft 1.8 even released. And I've done a lot of stuff to it, but I build a lot of stuff. I've built a lot of houses, built some apartments, built some like industry and businesses, like ideas for, oh yeah, let's make this into a proper city. And one of the things I really wanted to do was like find a new way to like basically stimulate the architectural creativity in my brain to like not have to just straight up look for specific videos on like, oh, here's how you would build this kind of house, and then kind of like iterate off of that. I wanted to do something a little bit more original. And so what I did was I started going to Google Earth, and one of my favorite things to do now, even though I've only done it with like 2 or 3 houses, is go to Google Earth, find a house that I kind of like the shape of, and be like, I'm going to build the house as I can see it from the outside, and then I'm just going to try to fill in the inside as well as I can, as though it's like, oh yeah, this is my house in survival mode or something, you know? And it's really nice because you get like a pretty basic like box shape, as is the case with a lot of houses, particularly in America. It's easier to find those detached homes. And then like there's kind of like that gives you like a box to work within, literally and figuratively, right? Where you have to use the space for certain things. That was kind of a waste. You have to use the space for like you have to be intentional about the way that you use the space inside the sort of empty box that you've just built in the shape of a house, right? And I feel like that actually gives it a lot of personality, which is cool. Third? Fourth? Pretty happy with that either way. Yay. I'm surprised it picked my track again so quickly after I picked something that we had played earlier. But yeah, that's like a new, it's like a new pattern that I'm glad to have established, because it gives me a source of inspiration that I can reliably call my own. And then another thing that I wanted to do was build like non-residential buildings more frequently, to better reflect like, you know, what a functional city would look like. So I had previously been doing it where like I build 10 residential buildings, then I build one like industrial or commercial kind of building or something. But I think now I want it to be like 5 and then non-residential kind of thing. If that makes sense. Super Bell Subway. Sometimes I'll show off this Minecraft world, but I don't usually like to do... I've figured out that I don't usually like to do live streams where I'm just building in the Minecraft world, because I've learned recently it demands a lot of active attention from me. And I'm used to being able to like essentially have the attention from my hands devoted to this, while the attention from like other parts of my brain is devoted to talking about politics and doing analysis on all manner of things, right? Probably use this here. Unfortunately, it makes me take that turn super wide, but, you know, nature of the game. Oh, or I could just get another one. Cool. That was a nice try. Might have even caught up with me. You were able to analyze stuff while you're playing Smash Bros. Game? Yes, I was. And I might do that at some point as well. Oh my god! That train is larger than its model would suggest. The hitbox is larger than the model of that train. One of the best story of them all, which is not a high bar. Yeah, in Brawl Subspace Emissary, I was able to do that. It's a little bit harder, though, when I'm playing net play, you know? Just a little bit, though. My opinion, Smash Ultimate story is trash. Bro, same. I don't care what the metaphor you're gonna make out of it. Yeah, I think Brawl's story is way the fuck better. Again, to the extent that like a Smash Bros series has or can have a story, right? Unfortunate. I feel like I raced decently well. Definitely better than I would usually... Well, maybe not better than I would usually drive on Whistletop Summit overall, but I certainly didn't make the same mistakes that I've made before, which I think is important, you know? Super Bell Subway. I think it just kind of evolved as a thing that fighting games and platform fighters don't have very good stories because, like, come on. That's not why you're there. You're there to beat each other up and have fun doing it. You know, you're there to do a fucking Shoryuken. You're not there to play a story-driven game. If you were wanting to do that, you'd be playing, like, Baldur's Gate. You know what I mean? Sounds like an excuse to me. So tell me you'd only make a good story if you had you. No. What I'm saying is like, it evolved as a thing that fighting games don't have good stories because that's not usually the priority of fighting games. It's not like storytelling. A lot of fighting games evolve from arcade beat 'em ups, which, you know, not a story-driven experience. Like, usually the story is an afterthought. I'm not defending that, right? Like, it depends on the motivations of the people who are making the game. Like, if they don't care that much about telling a story, they care more about characterization. I think this is actually where Street Fighter 6 is one of the strongest points in the series. As much as I think I don't like the gameplay in it as much, though for me it's certainly better than 5. I think the story of Street Fighter 6 shines really well because since fighting games are very character-driven, the stories of fighting games are also very character-driven. And I think the Street Fighter 6 stories do a really good job of showing that because a lot of them are loosely connected, almost like not anthologies, but like it's almost like every Street Fighter character that's super cool and iconic and whatever is at the end of their story trying to help you complete yours, you know? But your story mostly revolves around going and making friends with them and learning their stories, right? So like you get to fucking befriend Chun-Li, and she actually said like if um you say like her legs are inspirational or some shit. She's like, I don't mind if you look a little longer. And it's like, damn, okay. And then you try to like give Ryu a quick tutorial on how to fucking use his smartphone because he never uses that shit. You know? And that's good storytelling. And then you have Street Fighter V, which has a shit-ass story mode. And a lot of times, I think sometimes I think a lot of times, with Street Fighter particularly, again, that's the fighting game I play, so I can speak to that. A lot of the storytelling is very well done because of how it's not contained in a story mode. They leave a lot of the story for, like, small snippets, you know? It was like you had to kind of uncover it because the main thing was, come on, you're Ryu, you're here to fight Ken. You know, but in learning about the characters, you learn about the rest of the world that you're fighting in a little bit. You know? And in this instance, I am thinking of Street Fighter 3. It's just kind of like Street Fighter 6 took that and then said, what if we overtly made these into stories now? And that's how I got, dude, you look huge. I'm going to try to front run, as ill-conceived as this may be. Ill-conceived is right. I missed a mini turbo right away. Oh, that guy's smart. He's going to throw red on this straight away. Or not. Interesting. I'm going to hold my green shell. Me not showing what I have indicates to him that I have a fake item box and I'm trying to hide that fact. Except for the fact that I'm going to hold this out when I get this box. Now he knows what I have. That's a little psychological trick in Mario Kart Wii. If you want the person behind you to throw their red shell at you and you know it's a while till another item box comes up, don't hold your item out. That makes them think that you have something that can't dodge a red shell and you're trying to save it for a sticky situation or hide your hand, right? So like me holding this green shell, right? This guy doesn't know what I have. The guy behind me, if he has red shells, thinks that I have a fake item box because if I see the person behind me that has red shells, the obvious decision, the correct decision would be to hold out whatever item I have, you know? Or I could have a mushroom too. I don't need that box right now, so I'm just gonna hold this. But now he knows that because I hit that box and didn't throw away my green shell to use something else, now he might know that behind this green shell, I have something that can't dodge a red shell, right? Not that that matters anymore because I got red shelled myself. This I am, however, just going to hold out as a deterrent for at least a little bit. Realized that nobody behind me really had anything that could challenge me, so I just yeeted it forward. I'm good. I'll refuse to do mind tricks for the rest of my life. It's a good little psychological sleight of hand, right? I think I've done that on like one other occasion, where there's a pretty easy indicator. If you're showing that you have a red shell and the person in front of you isn't showing what they have, they don't have something to dodge the red shell because there's an imminent threat that they will get red shell and they're still not showing anything. It's like well, you know. You pick up on that after a long time playing the game. And it derives from the meta. The meta is to cycle through items to get as many items as possible, to utilize them to maximize your chances of winning, because they can either slow down the people around you or make you go faster in a certain instance. So, you know, you would want to cycle, you would want to pull out an item to get another item. Ordinarily. What do I get here? Mushroom? Are there even any shortcuts on this track? I wonder. Okay. I'm just going to use this here to cut off a little bit. Ow. Okay. Whoa, 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 whoa. Got so much air from that. I don't try to predict people's thoughts. It's like, the reason I went on such an extended spiel with that is it's not something I even have to try to do. I've played this game so much. You know, like, I didn't even need to try. Like, just by instinct, I know, like, oh yeah, person behind me has a red shell, hold something out. And like, oh, I have a red shell, person in front of me, hold something out. Oh, they're not holding something? That means I can throw this. Haha. Thoughts on things happening in the world recently? I think total Minneapolis victory. Total Minneapolis proletariat victory against ICE. Maybe not total, but I saw the order from Tom Homan to withdraw a bunch of ICE agents from Minneapolis. How the fuck? Okay. 700 of them, in fact, which is not enough. As Comrade Chairman Stancil, of course, praise be upon him and so forth, Islamic Republic Chairman, glorious leader, etc. It does indicate that, like, the government is aware of how fucking evil they are and that they're kind of losing the PR war. So that's cool. But unfortunately, legal accountability and trials and prosecutions are still a very long way off because of the complete unwillingness of anybody who has the power to do those things, right? Local prosecutors, I haven't heard anything about. Like, I don't think they're actually investigating this. The state government has pledged not to investigate this. Or not to prosecute. The federal government is the one doing the fucking ICE raids, so they're not going to investigate it. But even with all of the state power in the world on their side, completely hostile territory is still completely hostile territory, and they didn't fucking last all that long. You know? Just do Piranha Plant Slide. I like that track. So it's like, there's some ups and downs to that. I think it's good, though, because it does show that the ultimate power of community organizing. That even, like, when institutions of law and government fail, and fail they do, you can always organize at the community level and just purely outnumber your occupiers. That's kind of what makes this conflict what it is, that there's this hierarchical force that monopolizes a lot of capital, a lot of material, a lot of wealth, and that sort of thing, but ultimately lacks the numbers to effectively bring those to bear when people are properly organized against them. You know? You guys don't need to... I don't know if people know this. You don't need to slow down to do the double shortcut on this track. You can just like fucking, you can just free ball it and get hella air, you know, which is way more fun than like slowing down. I don't even know if it's like faster or not, but you still don't need to slow down to do it. See, like, check me out. Woohoo! Get back up to speed. You can take first. You can have that. That's fine. Oh, no! I hate when that happens on those blue half pipe ramps. Whoa! That bomb was I know it wasn't that close, but still like a little bit close for comfort. Oh, good target shot. Got both me and the guy in first. Maybe they're just not confident in your abilities. No, it's the other way around. It's actually harder if you slow down. See, on regular DK Summit, I think it's like either it's slightly faster to slow down there because you get like less air, or they don't know this track, right? In the original DK Summit, you have to slow down to do that shortcut, right? You have to slow down, basically barely make it over the first gap, ramp up some speed, and that lets you make it over the second gap. But you don't need to do that in this version. The only reason you need to do that in the previous version is because you either overshoot the track or you get stopped by an invisible wall. But there's no invisible wall in this one, you know? So I think they're like misreading what version of the shortcut they're doing is probably what's going on. Which, I mean, it's a different version of the same track. It makes sense that they just pull from the version that they do know, right? But, yeah. Like, doing that shortcut, it is way harder to do the normal double shortcut on DK Summit than it is to do the fucking free ball fly a million feet in the air version of the shortcut on this version of the track. You know? And I would know. I played plenty of rounds of the original DK Summit in my day. In fact, the double shortcut is difficult enough and risky enough in original DK Summit. I usually just opt to do the single shortcut, knowing that a lot of people will fail or get target shot going for the double cut. And I usually come out on top for it anyways. Ooh. Me item, thank you. One mushroom. Oh, whoa, okay. Turned into Crash Bandicoot again. Nice. Ow. What's up, Alan? How did I get bumped into almost a standstill there? I don't get it. Barely got that box in time. I'm gonna use... Oh, okay. I'm gonna wait just a second to use the Skolden. I'm gonna start using it here. Nice. Gained a ton of time on people. Please don't hit me. Person in a star. That green shell was disconcertingly close. I might still get hit by it. Maybe not. He had a mushroom. I really need this item. Okay. Cool. Short. That routing is really janky, but it does pay to get the low trick there. Alright. For this red shell, that's unfortunate. Oh, wow, he actually dodged it using the banana there. That's kind of crazy. Go up the spiral. Whew. Somehow clinched out third in that insane ending section. Nice, you love to see it. Whew. Oh, really funny thing that I might make like the last or second to last topic of the stream. Don't knock the Wii remote over. Is I don't know if anybody else saw that Polymarket did this stunt where they opened a free grocery store in New York City, or they announced the opening of a free grocery store. I don't know if they actually did it. And everybody was like, okay, why are they actually doing this, right? Polymarket is a gambling site, and a lot of people thought it was just like boilerplate reputation laundering. But what came out recently is here we go. Polymarket hit with a nationwide class action lawsuit in the Southern District of New York for operating, quote, an illegal online sports gambling platform that is marketed as a prediction market, but in reality is an unlicensed sports betting enterprise prohibited under various state laws, unquote. As weird as it may seem, because of how normalized shit like Kalshi and Polymarket are now, yes, sports betting and gambling, like running a fucking sports gambling operation and engaging in sports gambling is actually illegal. Like, that shit is actually against the law. And somebody finally, like, sued them for it. So, it's possible they were, like... It's almost definitely the case that they were reputation laundering. They were aura farming. But now we kind of know why they were aura farming. Yeah. Which is very funny. Mushroom going into lab 4. Okay. Okay. I need an item, but not badly enough to go out of my way there to get one. Certainly bad enough to grab one here. Okay. Probably gonna get dogged at the end here. Maybe not. Why is place counter doing that? Yeah, okay, 7th. 8th? Alright. I don't know why the place counter freaked... I've never seen the place counter freak out like that. This would actually be amazing. This lawsuit, if it actually goes anywhere, it would be incredible. Because I fucking hate how much institutionalized gambling has become the new economic, like, standard of doing business. You know, like Polymarket, Kalshi, and whatever other platforms exist. I'm sure there's like 1 or 2 other ones. I don't know how much, if it even becomes a legal precedent, if it'll be enforced at all, but you know, it could be nice, especially because this is like the logical extension. This is the next logical step of the stock market. The stock market is also gambling. It is a prediction betting thing, right? And the difference is just that the stock market is more institutionalized, integrated into certain companies, and the things that you can bet on are a little bit more restricted. Like, you can bet on kind of the financial fate of a certain company, but all the bets and gambling that you can do on the stock market is generally related to that. You know, on Kalshi and Polymarket, you can literally just bet on anything. You know, And I'm assuming that given the political and ideological predilections of the American court system, that's going to be the distinction they focus on, because I know for a fact that the lawyers for Polymarket are going to argue this is fundamentally no different than the stock market, and they're going to be correct to argue that. But you know, it might be tough for them to argue like, yeah, this fucking Poly market is uniquely bad. It's basically just sports gambling, without kind of implicating the stock market in a given way, which I think a lot of like prosecutors, because of the local government and police's like relationships to businesses that operate on the stock market, that depend on the stock market, that use the stock market, that influence the stock market, they're probably not going to be, the prosecution and the judge probably isn't going to be very willing to acknowledge the fundamental similarities between poly market and the stock market. You know, but it's different. Yeah, it would really suck if the argument was it's different and not elaborate is the reason that, like, is like the best they could come up with there. If you were a real Giga Chad, if you were really a Giga Chad, you would say that no, they're not different. We should also ban the stock market. I realize that is legally untenable. So for the purpose of this ruling, we can mark that as like unenforceable. But like, I think that's the airtight case you could make against poly market here. But it's also not out of the question that the judge just doesn't rule on that. Like, the judge just rules like poly market is fine, actually, because actually it is basically like the stock market. You know? Like, I could see that happening because this fucking court system is hopelessly buried in liberal institutionalism, you know? His place? Not bad. Couldn't they just say you're acting in bad faith? Who? The courts? I guess they could say that. Bad faith has been a factor in court cases before, and it could very well could be now. Oh, well, there goes my game. That might even be a good note to end it on. I think like I genuinely think the ways in which you could rule against poly market that don't also implicate the stock market are kind of limited. But if they do rule against poly market, it will almost definitely be in a way that doesn't implicate the stock market, or they'll just say this implicates the stock market, but whatever, or something like that. Or they'll rule in favor of poly market because it is actually just like the stock market. Um, A potential middle ground I could see is the ruling that it has to be regulated similarly to the stock market because of the similar functionality. I think on the stock market, there's a certain frequency of trading that you're not allowed to do. And there are certain guardrails, hard to believe, but there are certain guardrails about like uh, uh, how volatile things can get. Uh, but God, I would love to see the world where they argue like, yeah, this is just the stock market again. And that's also bad. And it's like the stock market is a very capitalist phenomenon. But if you take it back to the origins of capitalism, Adam Smith doesn't like say that you should do the stock market. Like the stock market isn't mentioned anywhere in the foundational economic theory that was used to sort of build a market system, right? Like Adam Smith's theories and analysis of political economy, nowhere in any of that is the stock market mentioned, right? When he talks about markets, he's talking about a bazaar, like market stalls, bringing your stuff to market. And when he talks about stock, because Adam Smith does talk about stock that you would trade on the market. He's talking about physical produce, right? When he says stock, he means apples from your apple orchard and like wheat from your farm and like I don't know, lumber from your time wood cutting. And when he's talking about the market, he means you go into town to sell those things. Yeah. The stock market is neither stock nor market, you know? I mean, I guess it is a market, but it has nothing to do with the Smithian concept of stock. Even the Smithian concept of capital was essentially a different version of stock, which is entirely divorced from the concept of capital and stock today, right? When Smith says capital, even when Marx says capital, they mean machinery, right? The cotton gin, that is an example. You use the cotton gin to more efficiently produce cotton. You use the capital to produce stock. You use the capital, the machine, to produce stock of cotton, which you can then weave into clothing and sell on the market. That's real economics. The modern stock market is, what is the vibe of this company? How much have you leveraged debt from money you've borrowed from other big fuck ass institutions? And how likely are you to consolidate that debt in a way that favors the people who loan you the money as well as yourself? Like, it has so little to do with any physical acts of production or result of production. You know, it's almost like the concept of the market has actually been alienated from the market, right? Like, none of it has to do with anything anymore. Like, it's all fake. It's all completely alienated, separate from the production that ostensibly meets people's needs. We don't think of apples, food, fruit, bread, meat, whatever, lumber, building materials. We don't think of that as stock anymore. We don't think of the cash register or the conveyor belt at the grocery store or like the fucking like a power jack that you would use on a construction site. And we don't think of that as capital anymore, even though in a Smithian sense, even in a Marxian sense, that's what those are. Yeah, the money, wealth, capital, and economics has become more imaginary with time to reflect how much of the wealth of society has been captured by a class that deals entirely in their own imaginative like fantasies to justify their position on top. You know, it's so bad that when people hear the word the economy, they don't actually think of the economy. They don't actually think of the real production that occurs and like the distribution of these material goods. At best, they might think of fuel and grocery prices, but really they're thinking of the stock market. They're thinking of these imaginary concepts, these fake concepts that somehow took over the lexicon of political economy, which is really unfortunate. And it's one of the many reasons that the guillotines will be necessary. You can't have a system like this and meet people's needs at the same time. That's like political economy. The purpose of that is to meet people's needs. When it ceases to do that, you have to change things. Anyways, that was me like posting a whole ass lefty meme about the stock market and how it's neither stock nor market, and I fucking hate speculation and I hate the fake economy. Glory to Comrade John Maynard Keynes. Keynesian socialists will inherit the world, and yeah, all the capitalists need to burn in hell for all eternity. I will invent hell just so the capitalists can burn there for all eternity. Yeah, Ash Kitty, you're exactly right. Stock markets are just commodified vibes. And they are vibes that do the commodification too. It's like it's a perverse fucking cycle of the Marxian money commodity money prime or commodity money commodity prime, where it's like you have the you have the concept, you have capital, right? You have money prime, and then you filter it through this commodification machine. It becomes more commodified on the other end. It's another version of that cycle. Anyways, leftist meme type shit. Follow, subscribe, donate, etc., etc. I'm gonna raid somebody. Hassan Azan is live. We'll invent a word for throwing burning capitalists off of roofs. I'm sure we will, and it'll be the fucking best word, like the French did with defenestrate. Yes, that's right. The word defenestrate is has its roots in French. Defenetrer, which means literally to de-window. You're throwing somebody out of a window. Is it defenetre? No, it's defenetre. Defenetre. Okay, right. I forgot my conjugation for a second. Anyways. Enjoy the Hasanabi broadcast. Thank you for tuning into the stream. It's been a nice one. And I'll see y'all next time, likely Monday. Canadian maxing? True. I do speak French with a little bit of a Canadian accent because I'm American. Oh, yeah, that's true. Also, something, Canadians are the real French something. All right, anyways, bye.